Power Trading Hour with your host, David White. Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648 or internationally at 727-873-7618. Now, David White.
And welcome all to another exciting edition of the Power Trading Hour, where we come to you at the appointed time.
The following takes place between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m.
So the first question I want to ask on a day like this always is, what are we doing for volume? And most of that is, well, we're getting kind of late in the year, so there's a little bit of that. Also, generally on the Monday before a Fed meeting, you tend to have kind of an up day. A lot of times the short sellers tend to start backing out, which means that more short sellers will tend to cover. I wouldn't call it so much as a squeeze as kind of what we have right now, which is maybe 0.5% or maybe a whole percent move a little bit higher. The Tuesday before is generally down. Now, these aren't 100%, but I'm going to say it's more than a flip of a coin, maybe 65%. Tuesdays tend to be down a little bit. You tend to be a little flippant on Wednesday, but the volume does tend to start tailing off about 2 o'clock on Monday and then go very light into the Fed announcements. That is about 6.3 billion shares on the day, which is kind of light, especially going into a Fed meeting like this. Don't have a lot of stuff going on. Like I said, it's kind of light. Let's see, I wanted to get to something else out here. I think that was this. But, not much going on. Like I said, did want to bring up a few things out here. After the bell tonight, we've got one of the few stocks that could move the market. I don't think it moves it much, but it probably could move it some. And that certainly is it is Oracle after the bell tonight. I think it's at 405. Anyway, a nice little pop in this, and little is the operative word. You've kind of come down. You're going to go up about 5 days on fairly light volume. So is there a lot in this? No. This thing has surprised a little on both sides over the last few years. One of the companies that, since they deal only with the biggest companies, the Fortune 500 kind of companies, there isn't a lot of visibility. You don't get a lot of ads telling you about new products or how much they've sold. And for anybody that actually covers the market, I would use the word journalist very loosely, mostly because financial journalists have seldomly been bitten by the same things they have written. Not the most stable of folk, but certainly you came down on that huge day. You're not kind of moving up, and I don't know if there's a whole much more to say other than that. Again, very low visibility in this, but you got to think that at least with the market pulling back, pretty good correlation with corporations, especially big ones, spending less money. Kind of hard to think that at best, I would hope that it didn't break through 78 on the low. And maybe you just got enough people short this thing that it could tread water. Hard to say. On Thursday last week, we were looking at some of the stocks that I thought were most likely to do well. We had one that, had a good pattern, and that was the one we talked about. But, other than that, there's just not a lot going on. Light volume. We're up about 0.6%. on the S&Ps. So is there a whole lot there? No. The only other thing, I showed this earlier in the den, we've talked about that for about the last 4 or 5 days, has been the amount of ships, oil tankers at sea. And someone was saying, well, where do I hear this? Well, there's a couple of blogs on shipping that I follow. Not religiously, because I'm not a big shipping trader. I tend to be more on technology. But one of the technologies that I follow is a thing called AIS, excuse me. And it's kind of like a geo tracker for ships, large ships at sea. And if you're, I think if you're over 50 feet, you can get one of these and put it on, but it would broadcast your position and your direction and speed, and that way everybody else can figure out where you're going. There's satellites that handle all that. Great for big ships so they don't run into each other. There's warnings. Kind of like the same thing. In fact, it did come along as the same kind of thing as airline, or not very far after airlines. I think they use the same satellites, but I'm not sure. Anyway, one of the things that you can see there's marine vessel traffic. And the way I learned about this in the last 6-9 months was all the Russian oligarchs, their big, fancy, huge mega yachts. People were following around on that. It's not legally. Can you turn the thing off? Nobody's been really prosecuted for it. But theoretically, if you cause an accident, it can be judged your fault. But I think a lot of these folks on the Russian oligarch yachts probably don't care very much. They'll just go back to where they're at, change their name, and become a captain somehow else. But what my point is, just how many of these ships are at sea right now? And I was starting to watch these come along last week. But the light ones are unfilled. The dark ones are actually filled. And we got just a ton coming into the ports, mostly along the Texas border. Amazingly enough, we got about 3 or 4 of them circling to come into Tampa Bay. But you can see where they're at all over the world. And, as I said, there were probably about 25% of the tankers at sea right now weren't on the ocean 30 days ago. I mean, these guys put these ships back on the sea for the express purpose of taking Russian oil and selling it. The limitation is what they can actually, the top price that they can charge for it, which I think is $62 a barrel. And of course, I'm sure the Russians and Putin are going to use it all for widows and orphans, and not use it for anything like creating or selling new weapons of mass destruction to be used in Ukraine. So I don't know the wisdom about it, but certainly for oil, there's a lot on the sea. We'll be back in a minute.
Currencies, commodities, and bond markets are as important as ever right now with how they're driving the volatility in equity markets across the globe, which is why it's a great time to try out Teddy Kegstat's Tiger Forex Report. Teddy Kegstat breaks down the Forex markets every Monday using his 30-plus years of experience as a trading veteran of futures, Forex, stocks, and options. Teddy releases his weekly Tiger Forex Report every Monday morning with coverage of all the major currency pairs, including the dollar index, the euro dollar, pound dollar, dollar Swiss, dollar yen, as well as many more, and he also has weekly coverage of the crude oil market and the 30-year T-bonds, as they both influence Forex markets tremendously. When you sign up for the Tiger Forex Report, you also gain instant access to Teddy's 60-minute webinar archive he just hosted, Forex Strategies and Fundamentals, What is Behind the Tiger Forex Report. For all the details and to start your 30-day Tiger Forex Report subscription today, visit the front page of TFNN.com. TFNN, educating investors.
Are you grinding in the market, but seeing little to no return? Or are you a successful trader, simply looking to make your job a little easier? Learn to take the path of least resistance with David White's powerful trading newsletter. David White is an accomplished trader whose deep understanding of technology and the markets allows him to consistently find and share winning trades. Support and resistance define the ranges in which stocks trade. By understanding these trading ranges, David White is able to find the path of least resistance. David White's trading newsletter, The Path of Least Resistance, is delivered daily before the markets open to make every trading day an easy win. Visit TFNN.com today and subscribe to David White's Ultimate Trading Newsletter for $119 a month. And try all of our newsletters risk-free with our 30-day money-back guarantee. Take the path of least resistance at TFNN, educating investors. Are you looking for a way to consistently add winning trades to your portfolio? Tom O'Brien is here to help. Tom O'Brien has been successfully trading markets for over 30 years. A frequent contributor to TD Ameritrade Network and CNBC, Tom O'Brien founded TFNN over 20 years ago to help educate investors just like you. Tom's daily market newsletter, Market Insights, is published every morning when the markets open to give you the competitive informational edge you need to succeed. These newsletters are packed full of Tom's advanced technical analysis and are geared to deliver comprehensive strategies for a successful portfolio. Get Tom O'Brien's newsletter, Market Insights, today and try all of our products and newsletters 30 days risk-free with our money-back guarantee at TFNN.com. TFNN, educating investors.
Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-873-7618.
And we continue to float around on fairly light volume today. Not vapor quite, but not huge either. So, a pop-up of, I think at the high we were 0.7 or 0.7% higher in the S&P and the SPYs, but I don't think there's a lot here. Somebody in the den did bring up a news article about the London Stock Exchange and Microsoft getting together. That's been something that has been talked about ad nauseum, as the SEC and many of the folks here in the United States in the regulatory part of the market want to get rid of those exchanges' death hold on data. And that it's unclear whether that would, it probably severely curtail the profits at the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ, as they get to make a lot of money. I'll call it a fiefdom, because that's exactly what it is. Pretty erroneous, or not erroneous, odorous way of charging for data, far in advance of anything that you could justify. And they've been under fire for that for a long time. Of course, they've paid the right people off. Did see an article just how much money was pushed around by the FCX folks that would be subject to the bankruptcy court bringing money back. And it looks like maybe $200 million that could be pulled back just within the time frame since they filed on FCX, and that's just regular folk, and about $70 million in the last 6 months from political folks. So whether or not we have him show up and actually get in front of Congress this week will be interesting. I'm talking about the FCX guy. But you know what? he hasn't proven to be that smart so far. And somebody who openly calls names which I cannot repeat, calls his lawyers names when he tells them to shut up. I mean, the lawyer telling his client to shut up. I don't know if he's got the same lawyers anymore, but certainly they have done everything they can to make sure that he doesn't do something stupid. But, stupid is as stupid does. We learned that from Forrest Gump. Anyway, let's go ahead and do a little bit of history.
Then it's all just a little bit of history repeating.
On this day in 1980, Apple Computer holds their initial public offering, selling 4.6 million shares at $22 per share and turning more than 40 Apple employees and investors into instant millionaires. With a stock value closing at $29, the market capitalization puts the company's net worth at $1.778 billion on the closing day. And of course, back then, that was a huge amount. I think it pretty much vacuumed up all the cash in the market at that time. And it wasn't, this is kind of 18% interest rate days and that kind of stuff. But instant millionaires, all of them. And, lots of money for those folks. But what can you say? I did have a question, I guess because it's been hitting the newsprint for a while. Let's go ahead and take a quick look here. And that's been on Apple. Somebody asked me about AirTags today. I just said I'd answer it here. If you don't know what they are, these things are little button-sized devices that communicate through Bluetooth to other Apple devices and some non-Apple devices. But think about it as about as big as a button, maybe a little larger. And when these things communicate with any other Bluetooth Apple product and some others, depends on where you're going. My understanding is that they also will work with a lot of the big chain restaurants where there's Wi-Fi, Home Depot, Lowe's, McDonald's, Burger King, and other places, restaurant chains, and others. So one of the things is they do track everywhere that tag goes. If it follows you, i.e., the phone for long enough, it'll start beeping. A lot of videos on YouTube on how to pull that beeper out, and of course that's what many have been doing to stalk other folks. Now, the interesting part on Apple's plate here and all the lawsuits that came Friday and today for Apple is they kind of announced it as a non-stalker friendly device. So this is a product that probably never would have made a lot of money. It's probably going to cost them a lot of money to actually have. I've never bought one because there's far cheaper and more active, or you can get these for a third of the price if they don't have Apple's name on it. Two, I don't like the thing that these things are always beeping. And since they're beeping, if you put one of these on your motorcycle, you don't want it stolen. If it's following you and it's not programmed for your phone, it'll start beeping. That's the last thing you want, is to let the thieves know that they've got it. So there's some problems in actual use. There are claim of it not being able to be used by stalkers, pretty inadequate. And two, or actually the last issue, is Apple has been very aggressive in saying politically, in saying that other people making other products should be very liable for the way that those products are used for ill will. So I'm sure now that Apple's in court on this, I wonder if they're going to be miserable hypocrites and say, you know what, AirTags don't kill people. People kill AirTags. Anyway, always interesting to see the utter hypocrisy of most everybody. We're all human, but it's when everybody else kind of acts like they're less hypocritical than everybody else. Always kind of gets me. Yeah. 877-927-6648. Anyway, yeah, I think it's been going on a little bit. When we get back, we'll talk a little more about Apple and the FBI, because that also was breaking over the weekend. And then we'll get into some stocks. Like I said, kind of all quiet on the Western Front here, waiting for the Fed, I suspect, over the next couple of days.
If you want to take advantage of this sector, now is the time to subscribe to my Gold Report. The Gold Report is a comprehensive look at the metals sector as well as the markets that move gold, which is the currency and bond markets. New subscribers get a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. Every Monday morning, I publish the Gold Report with coverage of gold, silver, bonds, the XAU, HUI, GDX, as well as more than 30 different mining equities. To see for yourself the types of profitable trades that are recommended within the Gold Report, sign up now by visiting TFNN.com. Don't miss out on the next great gold trade. Sign up today.
Sharpening your skills as an investor is like getting better at playing a musical instrument. You have to practice, sure, but you also need excellent instruction from experts. At TFNN, you'll get advice and guidance from the authority in technical market analysis. And it's not just dry, tedious text either. TFNN airs live financial content streamed live on TFNN.com and TFNN's YouTube channel with Tiger TV, live every market day from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern, for free. Each host is an experienced trader and gives their take on the market while taking calls and questions live from around the world. From the moment the market opens until the closing bell sounds, Tiger TV has 8 different shows with expert hosts to help you make the right moves with your money. Watch online at TFNN.com or on TFNN's YouTube channel and become the investor you were born to be. TFNN, educating investors.
TFNN is excited about our new software charting program, The Art of Timing the Trade Charts. In collaboration with Tom O'Brien and using his best-selling book, The Art of Timing the Trade, Your Ultimate Trading Mastery System, David White has programmed an outstanding piece of software that will complement any trader's methodology. Using this first-of-its-kind program, The Art of Timing the Trade Charts allows you to scan thousands of stocks for Fibonacci formation setups, including Gartley's, ABC's, butterflies, and much more. The Art of Timing the Trade Charts is designed to help you when scouring the markets for stocks just beginning to form the trading patterns that many investors spend days, weeks, or even months searching to find. And right now we're offering licenses available at only $79 a month. We are so confident that you're going to love this new charting software that will even give you a 30-day unconditional money-back guarantee. Don't miss out on this incredible new piece of software. Get your copy of The Art of Timing the Trade Charts today by visiting TFNN.com.
This segment is brought to you by Thinkorswim. For more information, just click the Thinkorswim banner on the front page of TFNN.com.
And that's not the only reason that Apple is in the news of the last couple of days. I don't know if the stuff's going to actually grow to a level where it'll impact Apple's stock price or not. But why things are kind of quiet in the market, we'll take a look here. Apple has reversed itself on its policy of scanning all photos for the possibility of finding some kind of child pornography. This is I-rated the FBI, who have chastised them a bit. Probably a little bit disingenuous. The last time Apple and the FBI got in a tiff was over the terrorists in California and their attack. They wanted to get the phone unlocked. Unclear since it never went to court, whether the FBI could force them to do that. Most people think that the FBI blinked and paid the Israeli company that makes jailbreaks for the phones, so you don't need any kind of bio imprint from your thumb or eyeball or anything to unlock an Apple phone, as long as you've got these guys around. And I think they sell the software for like 10 grand, much cheaper than hiring an attorney, even if you're probably at the FBI. And the most people around thought that the FBI would lose eventually anyway. So even in that case, I think it took about 2 weeks, and they had to actually admit to the judge in that case that they'd already cracked the phone, rendering the lawsuit moot. So that was kind of it. Anyway, they're back at it again. Unclear why Apple turned around, other than the fact that they're probably the false positives that could get people arrested and killed. Probably a lot more problematic if you've got a lot of people showing up to people's houses, and SWAT gear. The potential for someone that isn't doing something wrong to get raided and maybe act the wrong way and get shot by the cops. Basically, Apple's counsel has said that, you know what, we probably ought to stay away from this. That's probably good for $1 billion lawsuit. And most places would probably do it. Your technology has to be pretty much bulletproof, as I expand the analogy there on that. So, who knows? But nonetheless, when it comes to national security, we've already found out that national security letters are pretty much rampant out here. And this, if you don't know what those are, basically a letter from the government saying, you got to do exactly what we tell you. If you don't do it, then we're just going to send you down to Gitmo, and we don't have to tell anybody anything. You're just going to disappear. For what it's worth. But so if you think your stuff is safe with any of these folks, if the government wants it, they're going to get it one way or the other. So, as they say, if you don't want it on the front page of the newspaper, you probably shouldn't do it. But you certainly shouldn't think that any of these companies are going to stand very long against the man when it comes to the government. 877-927-6648. In other news, I spent a lot of time looking at security news this weekend. Google back to support here at 90, and the volume is not as bad as, and would make you think it could be as bad as you think. 42 million shares on the gap up on November the 10th. And that is challenged today by about 16 million shares. So actually it looks fairly good. Volume's a little lighter. What I was reading about for Google is that they had to turn over to the, I forget which committee it was now in Congress, about the times that they've gotten subpoenas to geofence data, and whether or not it was actually used for its intended purpose, i.e. To find an individual. Most of the time it has not been. The idea on this is a lot of people watch too much CSI, and they said, well, we saw your phone ping off this tower, so we knew you were there. Well, the reality of it, that is, you could be in probably 6 or 8 square miles and you'd ping off the same tower. So it's not really that indicative. As we said in the part about the AirTags for Apple, anytime those connect to anything, any Wi-Fi, any Bluetooth near you. They ping back and have a serial number so they can find out where you are at. Now, Google sells this data and it under a tag called geofencing, which means that you are in a very specific area, maybe 100 yards or 200 yards around. They advertise it as being very specific as to where you're at, and most of the time, pretty good. But it's only about 90% accurate. Some police agencies have been using it to go after evildoers. The problem is that 1 time out of 10 that's not accurate. And they've broken down the doors of more than a few 80-year-old retired women in the dead of night. And those cases are making its way through court. So everything you do, of course, in business has to be weighed against the money that you can give up when you get sued. But when we found out about it, even on iPhones, it could have been in any one of, I think, in this case, the court case I'm looking at lately, I think it could have been anywhere of 16 different homes. But the cops didn't bother to read about how accurate it was. They just found the house that they thought that it should be in and wrote out a warrant and then broke the doors down. So, again, a lot of issues that kind of harken back to 1984, the surveillance state on Google. I've been writing some stuff here in the Tech Insider that I'll be sending out right after the close, or after I'm done with the show. But and kind of just a little bit more focused on this stuff since I've been writing about it today. Doesn't look bad. Bigger problems for Google ahead. And a lot of these companies are going to be spending the next few years a lot in court. And for a variety of reasons that they can't do that Section 230 and say that they're not suable for that anymore. A lot of these other cases have been working through a number of years. These guys are going to be in court. They're going to be in court a lot over the next few years. Anyway, Google, at least at the moment, doesn't look that bad. But 8,000 times last year, the cops asked for kind of a dragnet. It's called geofencing. We'll be back in a minute.
Sharpening your skills as an investor is like getting better at playing a musical instrument. You have to practice, sure, but you also need excellent instruction from experts. At TFNN, you'll get advice and guidance from the authority in technical market analysis. And it's not just dry, tedious text either. TFNN airs live financial content streamed live on TFNN.com and TFNN's YouTube channel with Tiger TV, live every market day from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern, for free. Each host is an experienced trader and gives their take on the market while taking calls and questions live from around the world. From the moment the market opens until the closing bell sounds, Tiger TV has 8 different shows with expert hosts to help you make the right moves with your money. Watch online at TFNN.com or on TFNN's YouTube channel and become the investor you were born to be. TFNN, educating investors.
The technology around us is changing every day. With so much happening, it can seem impossible to keep up with all the information. David White's investment newsletter, The Technology Insider, is designed to give you all the information you need to understand the technology that shapes today's markets and tomorrow's future. David White has made his living staying on the cutting edge of technology. His weekly newsletter will give you specific recommendations for value tech stocks, as well as entry prices, target prices, and stops to set for each trade. Dave delivers his weekly newsletters every Friday with updates throughout the week. You can get the Technology Insider at TFNN.com for only $37.50. Sign up for David's newsletter, The Technology Insider, and get an inside look at everything the technology sector has to offer. Try it risk-free today with our 30-day money-back guarantee. TFNN, educating investors.
Are China A-shares hot or not? If you trade China A-shares, now may be time to take a closer look. Trade CHAU or CHAD, Directions Daily CSI 300 China A-share Bull and Bear ETFs. China A-shares in either direction. Visit directioninvestments.com today. An investor should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the Direction shares carefully before investing. The prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about Direction shares. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus, please contact Direction shares at 866-476-7523. The prospectus or summary prospectus should be read carefully before investing. An investment in the funds is subject to risk, including the possible loss of principal. The funds are designed to be utilized only by sophisticated investors such as traders and active investors. Distributor Foreside Fund Services, LLC.
This program is brought to you by Vista Gold, traded on the NYSE American and TSX under the symbol VGZ.
And see, what else do we have out here? Oh, let's take a look at some of the other usual suspects out here in FLX that I've been writing about today. Netflix, kind of still hanging out at these highs. There's a few things going on with them that seem to be kind of good. The downside is the slight volume on this last leg from November 7th all the way up to the high on Friday. You got into pretty hard resistance. Few changes at the company I'm writing about in the Tech Insider today. By the way, if you want to get that newsletter or any other newsletter, great day to go to the front page of TFNN, buy some Tigers dollars, and subscribe to either one. Anyway, Netflix up fairly strong, still probably the leader. Still see Disney not getting the memo about doing things to make more money. In fact, plowing back into things that aren't being successful. I think the Netflix guys are the first to figure out that return on investment is something they need to pay attention to. I think there's a little honeymoon period for Walt Disney. I just don't think it's going to last that long. When maybe some activist investors start asking Walt Disney why they're not making money. So anyway, you got a gap down here at about 88. My guess is that's kind of where Disney is going. Like I said, Netflix looks better, but it's kind of at the high of its range. Got some questions about what's going on in energy. You peaked out at the highs. You did go and break the previous high on lighter volume. The June 8th high had $91.28 in the XLE with 28 million shares. You pierced it with 23 million shares on November 14th. You pulled back into the trading range. As we spoke, there is a great deal of oil coming to market. The question is, will they be able to continue to ship that kind of oil in that level? And just at the moment, you've got a lot of ships that'll be on the sea empty going back to where they came from. And that will mean that we'll probably see some oscillations, fairly large oscillations in the price of oil, as it takes sometimes 30 to 45 days for these tankers to go around the world. And the question I would say is just how big the oscillation is going to be. How long are they going to allow Russia to sell that oil on the national market? But at the moment, the chart is telling you that you hit some highs. You're back. You're probably going to find, as I said, I think the number that we're hearing is $62 for Russian oil. So that's kind of the low end of the scale. Again, a lot of these tankers are old. They'd already been put off and pickled, and were getting slated to, or a lot of them getting slated to be retired. Most folks don't want to buy tankers now and haven't been replacing them very much. So these things probably not going to make it more than a few runs on a lot of them before they need to go back in and get service just to be marginally useful, as they're pretty old already. Generally thought that after 20 years, these things shouldn't be at sea, and that's the average age right now of the tanker fleet. Now, they, depending on how much energy and money you want to spend on the tankers, making sure they can transfer that oil around the world. But again, there's issues with what engine and what they are doing. A lot of people want to see that these big oil tankers run on natural gas that has its own problems. But right now there isn't a tanker you can build that will work with the environmental restrictions that you're going to have in 3 years. So no one wants to buy one. So the big choke point as we go further and we look at the price of oil and moving it around the globe, it may be a little while, but we're going to have a lot of problems in about 3 years. 877-927-6648. Natural gas, a big winner with this. Well, I think since it's so hard to transport, that's probably true. I mean, you got a very set amount. Now, most of the natural gas tankers already run on natural gas. So those guys will be able to go on the high seas without a problem. Most of those also have a much lower age. I think most of them are, the age for them, it may be 8 years or so. So much newer ships. It's the oil tankers that have a lot of problems meeting environmental regulations that people passed, but it's unclear whether anybody could actually build an engine for a ship that size that would actually be able to pass those regulations. I mean, how many times have you heard that, you had to have a car that made 50 miles per hour in 10 years or it wouldn't be legal to be sold here in the United States? And, of course, when everybody gets to that point, they just go, well, we'll give you another 10 years. And that's why a lot of folks that are in this business, especially the oil business, have been waiting for some kind of sense that truly they'll be able to buy one and get another 10 or 15 years out of it before environmental regulations say they can't. But from what I read in the shipping blogs, nobody makes one with an engine that will run on anything other than natural gas. So no one's buying any. So the question is, these things are getting older. Russia snapped up most of the ones that were available, cleaned them up over the last couple of months, put them out to sea. Most of those are filled already and hitting ports. And so the question is, how long do these ancient freighters have all kinds of problems? Are they going to bust in a channel, leave a bunch of oil, cause a bunch of problems? Probably. But kind of self-made problems probably too. 877-927-6648 as we hang out here. We're just kind of playing around about 0.6 to 0.7 higher in the S&P and the SPYs. About 0.5% on the NASDAQ. Russell up 0.8. Oil up about 3%. Again, I think a lot of people a little bit too short on crude, as even with all these new ships, getting back and forth, moving that oil around is fairly time consuming. And it will be kind of an accordion effect for a while, mostly because they had so many of these at sea ready to go as soon as the embargo was over for Russian oil. We'll be back in a minute to wrap up the show for the day.
The TFNN Holiday Tiger Dollar Sale is running this week only. We've doubled our normal bonuses where you can now get up to a 40% bonus on your purchase, and all purchases also receive a TFNN Tiger Mug. Tiger Dollars are good for all TFNN newsletters, trading webinars, and services, so they're a great way to lock in added savings. Don't miss the TFNN Holiday Tiger Dollar Sale, which ends this Monday, December 12th. For all the details, visit the front page of TFNN.com today.
You might think that if you want to be successful at trading in the stock market, you're going to need a crystal ball. After all, it's impossible to predict the future, right? Like any endeavor in life, before you decide it's impossible, get some advice from the experts. You might find that it's not so impossible after all. For daily market overviews that give you direction on the key indices, selective stocks, and commodities, subscribe to the Opening Call newsletter at TFNN.com. The Opening Call newsletter is written by Basil Chapman, creator of the trading methodology known as the Chapman Wave. The Chapman Wave up-down sequence gives you an edge in identifying price turns, finding the peaks and valleys in stock prices. Get the Opening Call newsletter by Basil Chapman in your inbox every day. First-time subscribers also get a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you're not satisfied, let us know, and you'll get a full refund within 30 days of signing up. TFNN.com, educating investors.
Everything in the universe is governed by the Fibonacci sequence. This mathematical principle is responsible for everything from the most aesthetically pleasing artwork to patterns in the stock market. To stay on top of stock patterns you can take advantage of, sign up for the Fibonacci 24/7 newsletter at TFNN.com. When you subscribe, you'll get a weekly report from veteran day trader Larry Pesavento on stocks you need to pay attention to. And you can trust Larry's analysis. After all, he's got 45 years experience as a day trader. Larry will also provide daily charts, videos, and data on the key markets that he's tracking. Expect notifications from Larry on market movement you need to act on at any time. First-time subscribers also get a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you're not satisfied, let us know and you'll get a full refund within 30 days of signing up. Subscribe to the Fibonacci 24/7 newsletter today. TFNN.com, educating investors.
Sign up for Basil's live webinar, airing this Thursday, December 15th. Basil Chapman will be hosting his first ever live trading webinar, just in time for the holiday season. While Basil will focus on the S&P E-mini futures, other symbols from gold, crude oil to natural gas and more will be traded as appropriate. Basil will demonstrate specific Chapman wave techniques, as well as answer questions live. Spots are limited, and Basil goes live Thursday, December 15th. You don't want to miss it. To sign up, visit the front page of TFNN.com. TFNN, educating investors.
Catch Tom O'Brien, professional trader and educator, founder of TFNN. Also, a special guest on CNBC. Tom will bisect and dissect the markets. The Tom O'Brien Show, next on TFNN.
And Modern Era's down. I didn't look to see what they said about it. mRNA. I know that some of these folks are looking for some news. This one may be on the Pfizer issue. There's some other possible negative news coming out in the vaccine space over the next couple of days. So I would probably just steer back from the vaccine industrial complex for a few days and see if that news develops. But it's been kind of announced. So we shall see whether that comes to pass. But kind of got up to resistance. Now you're just kind of coming back down around. Not a lot of volume today on this. So maybe the news is a nothing burger, as they like to say. But I don't think I'd be long any of these vaccine companies over the next couple of days. It could be nothing. It could be something. I just don't think there's a lot of reasons pre-Fed to be jumping on a lot of anything We probably are just going to short squeeze folks out today, probably pull back a little bit tomorrow, and then wait for the Fed on Wednesday. And that's kind of the normal playbook on this. Lastly, I don't think I have time to get to it, just got it, was a question about the TLT. You're certainly closing underneath the 3x3 the last 2 days. That may be enough to see it. My thought is that you're going to slowly pull back until you pull back very sharply, and that's probably on the Fed this week. So wait for 2 p.m. on Wednesday, I think, is the watchword of the week. Sell when you can, not when you can, not when you can't. Sell when you can, not when you have to. I'll remember it eventually. Be back tomorrow.
Building wealth trading in the stock market seems impossible.